Okay, I wasn't expecting this episode to end on an entire mermaid harem. This dude has a literal school of mermaids that all want him. They want to bring him in the water and keep him fed with air. Just so they can listen to his music and potentially bite his ear. But yes, episode 5 of Tatsuki Fujimoto. We are back, folks. I said I was going to do impressions on all the episodes, and I had to take a little bit of a break here. Finish Shikaku was an incredible episode. I wanted to get back to this series, and here we are. Now, I will admit, I was very intrigued by this episode. I thought, like all the other episodes, they were going to do something unique. But this one I thought was going to be a throwaway. I was like, oh yeah, typical romance story. You know, oh, the forbidden love, the Romeo and Juliet story, the human and the mermaid, the two that can't be together, that somehow find love through music. And then, yes, technically she bit his ear and it gets crazy from there, but it did a lot more than I actually anticipated for it to do. I thought, again, it was just going to be a throwaway romance story. So we'll get into that as usual. But yes, first of all, yes, this is episode 5 called Mermaid Rhapsody. It looks like it was done by 100 Studio that hasn't really done too much, but a lot of producing and whatnot, but they did an okay job. I will say I wasn't really liking a lot of the character designs, especially Toshihide a lot of the time. Like his face itself looked a little off here and there. But overall, it was a good looking episode. I think a lot of the underwater segments were really beautifully done. So they did a great job kind of showing the flow of the water and the clothing and whatnot. All that stuff still hitting, still on point. But yes, let's get to the episode proper, opening up with, yes, Toshihide. This is a middle school student that is seemingly skipping out from school. Very quickly, we get to find out his relationship with his father and his mother. One being the fact that, yes, unfortunately, his mother is seemingly passed away. She's no longer around. It seems like Toshihide doesn't remember too much about her, just knows that he did love her, and that she was sort of like this energy in the family. Seems like his father is very distant, doesn't really respond much to him. Toshihide himself believing that his father just kind of doesn't really care about him. Yes, I mean, he literally opens up with him saying, hey, Dad, I'm going to go skip out on school again. Yeah, okay. Now, it's interesting because, yes, at face value, the expectation here is that a father that lost the mother and he's just devastated and doesn't want to respond. He becomes a deadbeat. But I think over time, we do sort of get a hint here that there's a lot more to the story. I think the whole scene at the very end where he's talking to Shiju and he says that he's overworried his father. And the fact that his father finally comes forward to him to talk about his mother, it does seem like this guy just didn't know how to get in there. This is a father that, yes, very devastated by the loss of his wife, but it seems like that also hitting his son kind of messed with him as well. He didn't know what to do. He didn't want to overstep his bounds. He didn't want to push too much on Toshihide because he knew that this affected Toshihide too. So there's a lot here that the father, yes, while probably should step it up, he's not really doing enough for his son. It's understandable because it seems like this loss has devastated both his son and himself, and he doesn't really know how to navigate it. So it seems to open up a lot more than what the initial impression that we get of him. But anyways, yes, Toshihide not going to school. Instead, he's going to the shoreline where he jumps in the water to play a piano. Very quickly, we'd establish here that there's the existence of mermaids in the world. Toshihide hasn't seen them, but at the same time, yes, this piano apparently was created by the mermaids and it's able to play underwater. We find out later on that his mother did bring him to this location in order to teach him how to do piano. But yes, he just sits here and plays piano all the time. And yes, at some point, he catches the attention of a mermaid, Shiju. Shocked by seeing her, he just suddenly drowns. He runs out of oxygen. Seems like his blood being full of mermaid blood, he's able to actually stay underwater longer. Not sure exactly how that works. Typically, you still have to have water flowing into the scales and whatnot. But whatever. Anyways, we're not going to think about it too much. But yes, this Shiju saves him and calls him incompetent. This seems like this is a common thing amongst the mermaids, and I would imagine it's the same for the humans. Yes, very quickly we're getting a sense here that the mermaids don't seem to like the humans, and we understand more why later on, but calls him incompetent, but his music's great, and she's been listening to him this entire time, and yes, Toshihide seemingly gets a little doki doki right here. This is where we see the blossoming of a relationship right here, and the idea that it seems like Toshihide, despite being afraid of her, because yeah, the common knowledge here is that mermaids will eat humans. So she could eat me. Does she eat me with that mouth of hers? But it seems like he has some sort of feelings for her. She's beautiful, she's pretty, whatever. So he decides to kind of skip out on the fears that he has, push them aside for the sake of being around her. So he offers to repay her by teaching her how to play piano. Yeah, yes, she did mention the idea that the mermaids don't even know how to play the piano anymore. That's why she was actually listening to him. But yes, this opens the door to him playing piano for her every day, teaching her how to play the piano until eventually she can learn how to do it. Now, I like this because there is a sense here constantly put in here that the status quo is that the mermaids will eat the humans. They are dangerous. And he constantly says, I'm afraid of being around her. She scares me. But there's something about her. It was funny because early on, I got a sense that Toshihide was trying to die. That the whole comment about, if it was somebody beautiful like you, I don't mind being eaten. I almost felt like this is a guy that didn't really have anything to lose. His father is broken. He's not going to school. It doesn't seem like he's socializing with anybody. So, hey, yeah, if I die, whatever. I mean, he's playing piano to the brink of drowning constantly. This seems like a boy that's kind of throwing all caution to the wind. But it does technically sort of gravitate towards the idea that, similar to his father, it just was an aspect of beauty, being drawn in by the beauty, the whole siren's call kind of thing. But that's when we have, yes, the mermaid attack. Not technically the mermaid. I mean, the partially mermaid attack. And now this is so funny because, yes, Shiju at some point says, hey, Toshihide, get to the shoreline, quick, go. And then she runs off. Now, I immediately thought, oh, crap, the other mermaids have showed up and she doesn't want them to see him. But then it cuts and then he's at the fisherman's place and he's all beat the crap up. I'm like, oh, crap, okay, this is getting dark. And the guy comes in and says, yeah, that's mermaids. You need to stay away from them. They see us as meat. That's just how it is. It's nothing like that's going to ever change. And I was like, wait, so did a whole bunch of mermaids show up and they all attacked him and then Shiju couldn't stop him? And then it's like, no, a shark attacked him. I'm like, wait, what? She must have sensed the shark was coming. The shark attacked him. I don't know how he didn't lose all of his limbs, but apparently the shark just kind of grazed him or whatever. Didn't really do too much damage. But yes, it still goes to this point that the moment the blood got into the water, the instincts hit Shiju, and then Shiju bit his ear. Thankfully, she just went for the ear. He probably liked it. No, anyways, Shiju attacked him, bit his ear, and this is like where a lot of things go downhill. And I do love this. I do appreciate sort of getting into this idea that in the end of the day, there's still instincts. Like, no, love can't overcome everything. That there is still a fear here that, yes, a simple drop of blood, this girl, despite seeming like she wants to be their friend, she can't overcome her instincts. She will want to partake in him because that blood is in the water, that taste, that sense, that sensation is, I want this thing, and she could not overcome it. Her face warping and everything. And this is something that's going to be obviously very terrifying to Toshihide. And I love that gets into that. The idea that he doesn't just go, well, no, but love. It takes a while. It takes a while for him to overcome that fear because, yeah, no, it's scary. No, it's scary. Very, very interesting to kind of go in this direction. Very interesting to get into this whole concept here of the natural instincts and how love conquers all kind of thing isn't always so easy to kind of cut through. Yes, that's when we get a couple of cuts here and there. Toshihide being afraid of the mermaids once again and staying away from the ocean. We have at some point the fisherman ends up getting confronted by the chief of the village of the mermaids. And she's like, y'all a bunch of hypocrites. It was funny because it starts off with like, there's a mermaid here to apologize. And everybody rushes over there and the mermaid's going, y'all need to apologize too. It's like, okay, we're not fixing anything. You need to stay out of our territory. That's what you get. Wait, you're here to apologize? You should atone for what you did. Oh, yeah, you guys gonna atone for what you did? Yeah, this brings up the whole like concept of the folk tales. The idea of the, consuming the flesh of mermaids will grant you immortality. It seems like that's in this world as well. She actually says up until recently, you guys used to consume us all the time because you wanted immortality or whatever. Yeah. Are you guys going to atone for that? So it's this whole idea of the two sides constantly being at odds and kind of pointing fingers, not apologizing, all that kind of stuff. At which point, yes, we get the father finally confronting Toshihide about his mother and confirming to him that, yes, his mother did show in the piano and that, yes, his mother was a mermaid. And pretty much the fact that his father went through the same exact thing he did. The idea that, yes, at some point I was afraid of her. And then, yes, I was afraid that she consumed me. And yes, she attacked me once. But at the end of the day, similar to Toshihide, it comes down to this idea that they're a lot more afraid of never being able to be with them than to be with them. The idea that her smile was so beautiful that I was willing to give myself to her if that's what it meant. There's that idea. Put caution to the wind. Love overcomes all, despite the fact that it seems like that fear remains there. On the opposite end, yes, we do get to see that Shiju is told by the chief to stay away from the shore, to never go over there, and that she can't overcome her instincts. I think that's really kind of more getting in the idea that over here, where Toshihide, it's a lot about fear and overcoming those fears for the sake of love. With the side of the mermaids, especially Shiju, it's more of an idea of overcoming instincts, and despite the instincts, despite what they are, they still want that love. So a fear and instincts aspect. I do like it. Again, not really necessarily just a Romeo and Juliet story, but an inescapable reality that they're always going to have to face. Something that's always going to be a potential of danger that's going to be there. But yes, realizing this, Toshihide runs to the shoreline, jumps in the water, starts playing. Shiju's like, I gotta apologize. So she goes to the shoreline. All the mermaids try to stop Shiju. They're all holding him down while Toshihide is like, I gotta play until she comes and shows up. And then suddenly he enchants the entire village of mermaids. They all want him. But no, a very interesting comment that was made during this time as she's being held and everything. Everyone has the capacity to find beauty in things. To be moved emotionally, it's universal. I think this is sort of a idea of, a concept that transcends, races and beings and whatnot. And the idea that everybody, no matter what you are, can see a beauty in things. It's sort of like the idea that music itself is like a universal language. All beings can hear it and understand there's some sort of beauty in there and get entranced by it. It's a cool concept. But yes, the one that gives Toshihide hair just before he drowns is the chief. I was like, oh, that's wrong. Oh, that's wrong. Before it turned into basically a harem concept here, I was like, oh, that's kind of wrong. They're holding down Shiju over here, and the chief literally goes over there and gives oxygen. It was a nice thing because it sort of shows, because the chief is willing to go over there, all the other mermaids are kind of probably accept him. If the chief does it, we can accept it, right? Yeah, the chief's like, yeah, that's beautiful. I want you to keep playing the music, keep playing it. I will give you oxygen. Just keep doing what you're doing. And she's like, no, he's fine. I'll be the one that gives him oxygen. Now, this is funny because, yes, they accept that. He starts to play the music now, and it cuts forward. He, shows up late to go home, and his father gets mad for once. But Toshihide's like, yeah, I had to play all night, and my fingers are so sore, and my lips are as well. And I'm like, so does that mean that Shiju kept giving him oxygen, or did all the girls in the village all take turns? Is she able to keep producing oxygen, or what? How do these don't think about it too much. I literally just assume it's going to probably be an assembly line of girls going up there to give him oxygen. Anyways, yes, that kind of just turns into sort of a change in Toshihide's life, and the idea that he still visits Shiju on a regular basis, plays music for them. It seems like the chief herself wants Toshihide to come to the village to teach her how to play piano. They all want to basically learn how to play piano. He's being accepted by the actual tribe and everything. It was a cool little ending there, but I do like how it sort of wraps up here, because Toshihide, even being offered that, it's like, no, I have to go to school. It seems like at least his relationship with his father has changed a lot as well. It's not just about him finding love and getting with Shiju. It's a lot to do with him fixing his own life as well. The idea that his relationship with his father is improving. He feels like he is, worried his father too much. His father is now suddenly kind of stepping in and saying, look, you're scaring me. I want you to be safe. I think technically before, Toshihide was still communicating to his father when he's going to be back or when he's going to leave. And so it was a less a burden on there. But now that he's not at least keeping him updated, didn't follow his instruction, he's worried. And yes, he technically knew that his son was going to go off and play music for a bunch of mermaids, and he was afraid that his son died, right? It's cute. It's a cute little ending there. But yes, all wraps up with him playing the piano with all the ladies, how he's still terrified even at this point, but just looking at Shiju's smile or thinking about his mother's smile, he's able to overcome it. He feels that he can come to love them too. It's a cool little wrap up there. Like I said, I thought it was going to be a just kind of a cheesy romance story, but there is a lot in here about the idea of the sort of the instincts of this other race and how there's certain elements of fear and instincts that you're never going to overcome. It's always going to be there. There's always going to be that element there. I do like the willingness to sort of acknowledge that sometimes these kind of things are never something you can get rid of. It's always going to be present, and it's just what you do to overcome it, or at least the things that you do in order to cast it aside and focus on what's important, I guess is the best way to put it. But anyhow, that's my thoughts on episode 5 of Tatsuki Fujimoto 1726. Really good episode. Actually very surprised how much I enjoyed it. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video as always. If you did, hit the like button down below. Leave me a comment. Let me know, did you enjoy it as much as I did? Like I said, I was very surprised by it. I really wasn't expecting too much by it, and I was kind of surprised by it. But if you like this content and you want to support the channel more, become a member. Until next time, Y'all take care.